There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, neither do I.
One, two, three, set, go.
You are tuned into the Power Chord Hour right here on 107.9 WRFA and on the Power Chord Hour podcast. Right now on the phone, I am talking to Tony Scalzo of the band Fastball. They recently released a great new 4-song EP titled Soundtrack. They're also about to gear up to go on tour with Everclear and The Nixons for the summer. If you are listening in the Jamestown area, they are all around us this summer, actually. June 24th, Washington, PA, July 12th, Mentor, Ohio, July 16th, Hammondsport, New York, and August 27th, right over the border at Niagara Falls, Ontario. So lots and lots of chances to check them out this summer. Let's talk new music. Let's talk touring with Tony. Tony, how are you today?
Doing great. I'm here in Austin, Texas at home.
Nice, nice. So yeah, I mean, I guess at this point, I assume that tour's starting pretty soon. Is that kind of what you're doing now? Is just getting ready for tour at this point?
Well, believe it or not, I'm actually getting ready to go into the studio on Thursday. We're going out to a studio in West Texas called Sonic Ranch. And we're going to be doing some recording. We're going to produce recordings with David Garza, who's an old friend of ours from the Austin scene, 80s and 90s. He's a great guy and a musical genius. And so we're going to go hang out in the Rio Grande Valley, actually. And it's like a middle of nowhere, really. It's like a pecan farm, like literally.
Really?
Yeah, and then they have this compound sort of in the middle of it that has like a courtyard and a main house and, like casitas for people to stay in. And then there's a bunch of studios. There's literally like 4 or 5 studios, I think.
Oh, there are I was about to ask that. I'm like, is this place, of all these things, like, is it equipped
Oh,
as
yeah,
a studio?
it's a special place. It's a lot of people do stuff there, actually. And it's internationally, it's internationally active because there's a lot of Mexican acts that record there too, that are pretty big name. Los Tigres del Norte is a big old school kind of Mexican band, and they record a lot there. And there's a lot going on. Billy Gibbons likes to go out there and has some stuff out there, even some gear.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a badass. We've been wanting to go out there for a long time, and we just so happen to have like the opportunity, and we're gonna go for it. And I don't know what we're gonna come up with. We got a couple of raw kind of songs that maybe we could work on, or who knows, we might just come up with something there at the time. I don't know, really. Kind of playing it by ear, and then we're getting ready to go out. We're going to go out with Everclear and The Nixons, and
Nice.
that's going to be June. The dates are all up on all those social media things and Everclear's stuff. It's pretty cool. It's their 30th anniversary as a band. It's really not. I think they were going to do it last year or something, and they couldn't or something.
That seems to happen a lot. There's a lot of anniversary tours, I feel like, this year that were like, either a 2021 or a 2020 tour that there's a lot of like 31st, 26th kind of things going on, I feel like.
Yeah. We've been a band for almost 30 years, actually.
Wow.
We got together in summer of '94.
Jeez.
So, yeah, that's coming up, a 30th anniversary, and we'll probably have some stuff happening for that. We're actually trying to build our thing to where we can get enough happening to be able to just headline a tour. like really like our tour, with maybe a support act and play some smaller venues, theaters and things like that was what I would really like. And we really have to up our game a little bit. We've been doing that, but we're gonna need to continue and just keep that as a sort of goal because you know, it's great that we have such great friends who are popular enough to be able to take us out on the road and all that, and we're really grateful. But man, it'd be nice to be able to, have our own thing, and I think the fans would appreciate sets that are longer than 45 minutes.
Oh yeah,
you know,
do a nice like headlining set. I mean, like even including
yeah,
we're talking about that
yeah,
anniversary there. I mean, you do a tour like that where you can like jump in and play like those songs. You know what I mean? Like the
yeah.
songs.
Well, we're working on that, and we're also working on getting our stage show to a new kind of degree. So I don't know. How do I explain it? We have been going out for about 15 years now with a four-piece, sometimes a five-piece. And I started out we started out as a power trio. Okay, so I was playing bass, Miles was playing guitar, and Joey was playing drums. So, we did that for a little while, but then we had some hits that required, a little bit more going on stage. Now, that's when I decided I'm going to go ahead and play guitar, and I'll also play some keyboards, and we'll just get a bass player. And we did that for a long time, but now we're starting to figure out a way to just do it, the three of us, and seeing what we could do, at least on this tour where the sets are shorter. We feel like we can pull it off and we could play 45 minutes as a three-piece with me on bass, same as the old days. And that's what we've been working on right now. And as far as the hits, like The Way, Out of My Head, Fire Escape, we've been working with an engineer and like recording a couple of like rhythm guitar things and that kind of stuff, so you can have that going while we're playing live. And it's not something that's like an invisible musician, but like something that's more like filling out the sound and making it a little bit more impactful, because there's multiple parts in some of those songs that kind of, they're missed. And then there's other songs that we do that, all we have to do is just, boom, boom, boom. It's just the three of us. And, you know, it's great to get back to doing that, frankly. I'm having a lot of fun.
I like that. Like I'm a huge fan of a power trio. Like I don't know why, but like I feel like the last 2 years I've been infatuated with them because I think there's a freedom of being a trio where like for one, depending what you're playing, I feel like you can do more, even like as a bass player, like without having that second, not having to kind of play against two guitars. I feel like you can do more with bass. I feel like guitar
You kind of
players,
have to.
yeah,
Yeah,
you are.
you have
You're
to
filling
figure
that
out ways.
sound. You got to fill that
Uh-huh.
sound out.
I consider the different registers that the bass can do too, and sometimes I even go way up the neck and do some high stuff. And that's what I was doing back in the day, and I kind of lost that and that kind of practice. And now we're getting into a whole nother vibe again, that old vibe. And a lot's coming back to me, and a lot of the reasons why I like music are coming back. So it's really great.
Do you notice, doing more of that is playing the songs of Power Trio, the songs that you guys are playing and thinking about playing, does that change it? Like, are you considering different songs now as compared to if you're going out on tour and you have, 4 or 5 piece, or you're playing keys and stuff? Like, are you kind of changing,
Right.
playing more of the like rock songs now, more of the straight up rock songs like that? Do you notice?
Yeah, it's kind of true. I mean, we've been playing a thing where we play. I don't know how familiar you all are with our modern material, but
Oh
we've,
yeah, I love the new EP. The new EP is
oh,
solid.
I'm glad. Well, chances are we're not going to play a ton off that. We are playing, I guess there's Infatuations on there. Um, I don't know. I do know that we were playing a lot of stuff that was from previous albums that had a ton of keyboards. So I was playing a lot of keyboards. A lot of that's going to be going by the wayside for a little while, like songs like Frenchie and the Punk, and I have this song from our last album called White Collar and All Gone Fuzzy, and all those songs. Probably not going to do those because it's just mainly, it's me being, doing the Ben Folds thing kind of. And that's not going to be happening because we're just not bringing keyboards and we're not doing anything like that. So mainly we're going to be playing the guitar songs that we've been doing. We're going to be doing lots of older songs from the first three albums. We're also doing some new stuff, but mainly we've been instructed to play like, it's pretty much given. That's what they're going to want us to do, is play the hits. So, for the four basic songs that everybody seems to know, we're adding a couple of things. Like The Way, even The Way back in the day, we used to play The Way with a thing that like started off with that radio thing like it is on the record.
Yeah.
So that would be running, and then I'd start singing over that track that's running, and I'd start singing the first verse. And then we would come in as a band, like full on, and just that thing would run throughout the whole thing. And we're doing the same thing with that. Fire Escape has an extra guitar part. So I played that, I recorded that, so the thing, the little jangly thing,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna have that. That's all that stuff's activated by Joey, and he hits a little, rolling pad sampler.
Well, that's what I was about to ask. If this was like, if you guys are programming it, or you just kind of had like the sound guy kind of even like patch the sounds in or something, but you guys are like doing it on stage. You're like basically.
Well, we don't
this.
really. Yeah, that's the thing, is we don't really have a big crew. We don't have a monitor guy. We don't have a guy on stage. We just have a front of house guy. So he's out in the front, and he can't really. All he can do is mix what's coming at him. So Joey's going to have an input that has that sampler on there, and he hits it. He's got in-ears that are clicking off the time. He starts us off, and we just play. We don't even have to really have it in our mix. We just play, and it's coming out front, but we're just I'm just playing the bass and singing harmonies on that song. And there's also some opportunities we've found with delay sampler pedals, where you're able to, like, you play a rhythm part for about 2 or 3 measures, and then you click it, and then it runs and it plays, and he can play over that. So that's also a cool. They didn't really have those things back. I mean, they had them, but they were only worth like 8 seconds.
Oh,
You follow me?
Yeah,
You can only
I know
like run the thing. A loop pedal, basically.
Yeah, a little
now
loop
you
pedal.
got loop pedals that could run like a full-on page of music. So there's all kinds of new things that we've been trying out that we've never either had the time or the reason to develop. And that's what we're up to today, is getting a whole fresh new approach. I don't know, you remember, and we're not going to go crazy with it. It's not like going to be like, we're not going to turn into The Weeknd up there or whatever. But, we are going to have some things going on, and we like to explore those ideas, and it might shape some of the new material that we come up with. Who knows? And we might just say, fuck it, and get another person,
we're not doing this a
this,
second tour.
Yes, I mean, it depends. We're just trying it out, and I think that's really important for artists to do, is just like, find some new ground to cover. I think it's really great. It makes things fun, and it's not like it's just pumping out the same crap every year.
Well, I mean, we've been talking about too, like earlier. I mean, you guys have been around for so long. You got to keep it fresh. I mean, you need to, obviously you want the audience and everything entertained, but you guys got to go out there every night, play those songs, do the set. Like, you got to do it every night. You have to be able to like what you're doing and enjoy it. And also, that ends up leading into the audience, because if you don't enjoy it, is the audience going to get a great performance? Like, we want you to be liking what you're doing too. You know what I mean?
Right. I think everybody's pretty aware these days too, with YouTube and, TikTok, but mainly YouTube. When you see like a lot, I'm not going to mention names, but there's been a lot of videos of, bands for the last 10 years, kind of like they're, oh God, how do I say it? Bands get up and you can tell they're on their like 20th tour and they're just like so tired and they're not into it. And
they're on autopilot
it's a
mode.
shame because everybody's got a camera now. So if you're having off nights, people, they're going to be filming you and it's going to go up whether you like it or not. And so, there's always that awareness. And I've seen a lot of real, like, it's so sad, like some of these, like the last days of Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, he was really having a lot of trouble, and it was obvious by his performance. And it's really sad because even as late as 2010, the Stone Temple Pilots did a killer reunion tour, and he was amazing. And within like 4 years, he was terrible, just terrible.
That's a sad one. I mean, so much
talent.
But
that's because of drugs, though. I mean, but there is a sort of phoning in quality that I really want to avoid, and I want no one to ever like catch that vibe from us. Like, we're just like coming there to collect our money, and then we're gonna, go home, and we're not gonna, we're not gonna give you everything you want. We're not even gonna smile, whatever,
Well,
I just feel like I really want everybody to feel like this is of course I'm going to feel that way because, I'm a 50-something rock musician, but I really want to maintain an energy that says we're trying stuff, we're doing new things.
I gotta give you, or at least tell you, like, I feel like you're going in the right direction. Because, like, for me, I mean, obviously throughout the years, I mean, me, like everyone else, I know all the big, like, fastball hits. But when I really got into you guys, it was really only like 5 years ago, which, I mean, you're about to go on tour with Everclear. It was seeing you guys open for Everclear. And, like, the live show is what made me end up going back through your catalog and, like, becoming a fan, like, really a fan. And, like,
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, so, I mean, and this is only 5 years ago. This is like 2017.
Yeah, and we were playing some new songs then, I remember, yeah.
And
I mean, we had a current album at the time was the Step Into Light. Step Into Light was our record at the time.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And it was like listening to it again, like, yeah, I knew the hits, but like you guys were just a good rock. Like watching you, I'm like, oh my God, like they're just a solid rock band. Like just really, and then hearing too, I mean, like, and I don't know like exactly, and you can tell me, but like I hear some Big Star and like just some old power pop in there that I'm a huge fan of. I don't know if those are influences on you or not, but like the things I hear in your music, again, just from seeing you live, I'm like, oh shit, I should have been listening to this band forever. Like I should have.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, and sure, Big Star's huge for us, and they should be for any American rock band that has like hooky songs. I'm from the West Coast. Miles is from the Rio Grande Valley. Joey is born and raised in Austin, Texas. Joey and Miles were in the Austin rock scene of the 80s. I was in the punk and rock scene in LA of, from the late 70s on up to 93 when I moved to Texas. I brought an element of that. In 93, the DIY thing was on fire. Indie rock alternative bands were on fire, and it was before the time of bands like the White Stripes and Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and so there was a little bit more underground vibe to it. And then because later on it got really like the alternative indie bands became real big.
Yeah.
And, Lollapaloozas became like, that became like the norm. And, that's when you got the big festivals like Coachella and Awesome City Limits and, Bonnaroo. We kind of missed out on that. We're like in between the cool Nirvana scene, Sonic Youth, Flaming Lips, and then there's like our time, and then there's like the Strokes and all this other stuff that started being, really happening. We're in the middle of all that, and it's kind of like immersed out. I don't know, that like commercial sort of that alternative rock 90s thing, and it got real big, and it was all that you saw was like Sugar Ray, Everclear, Goo Goo Dolls, and Smash Mouth, and naturally, and nothing against those bands, but I mean, I feel like
That's not what you were doing.
I never felt like we were really gonna be like a big band like that. I was hoping for a more of like, can we be as big as Matthew Sweet and go around and and headline, and still really all I want is that same goal now. It's the same, can we fill 2,000 seats? Can we fill even 1,500 seats? Those are the kind of goals we're looking for, and we really approaching it just like a young band would have back in the 90s, except we're using modern technology now, and we're using the modern thing. Naturally, our shows, and this is the thing, I mean, it would be great if we could develop an audience that's a little bit more current. It's hard to do for a band of old guys who whose hits were in the 90s, and nothing against having 60-year-old fans, but it's not really the look we're going for.
I see what. No, I absolutely see what you're saying.
Tie-dye and shorts. It's just the way it is, and I understand that. But I mean, I would love to be, I don't know. I'd love to be. I guess I'm saying I'd love to be hip. Maybe that's what I'm saying.
I know.
I'll be honest. I mean, I like a lot of music, and I have super eclectic influences, even though our band's known for a couple of radio hits from the 90s. I think all those influences come through, like you said. We're a real like rock power pop, sure, but I mean, we're influenced by the legendary big like British bands and the Who, the Kings, the Beatles, the Stones, Small Faces. I just love all that stuff, and I gotta say I love it more than most of the American bands.
Really?
I thought yeah. I mean, think of it though. I mean, I love the Allman Brothers, but the Allman Brothers band is like, let's face it, it's kind of a rootsy Southern thing, and it's kind of like, I think the English bands present this sort of thing where you almost forget they're English. I think the Stones, for a long time, you could sort of like, shake your head and go, this is American music.
Yeah, that's a good. You know what? That's a really good point.
Right. I mean, and there's lots of great American bands, and I love, like you mentioned, Big Star. I think that's an excellent band, but unfortunately, no one fucking only the only the indie hipster music,
Yeah, they're not
record store diggers, the crate diggers are the ones who got hip to that. I mean, sure, and like thanks to younger bands, and their influence on them, they become this legendary thing. But I mean, those are cut up being records. Though, I mean, I worked in record stores in the 80s and 90s.
Those weren't off the shelf. You're saying Radio City and number one record weren't like flying off the shelves.
No, you could find them, and they were usually lost in some B file, on the rack.
No, that's a good point. I mean, a lot of my favorite bands I seem to notice, which I'm 29, so a lot of them I found second, years after the fact. But I do realize that a lot of them are maybe bigger now, but in their day,
Oh,
no one
sure. Well,
gave
they
a
had to
shit.
break up. They had to break up. I mean, they couldn't even. Well, it took them all the way until the early 2000s to go out with the Posies dudes and be big star again. And then, they were doing great and they were playing festivals, and then, you know, what's his name died.
Alex Chilton.
Alex Chilton died suddenly. They were about to headline at Austin City Limits,
Oh, that's
and
right.
he was in town, I think, and he died. And he was only like 51 or something.
No, he was young. He was really, yeah. It was like a
Uh-huh.
heart attack, I think. He just had a heart attack
Yeah.
and died.
And that was it. No more, no more
That was
ever
no,
again.
no big star.
And also we have a big affinity for a lot of that Midwest thing because that was our first, you know, that's our first Chitlin circuit kind of thing. We went up to Dallas, OKC, Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then you go back down, and then you get to meet all those people, and all those people from those bands, and so when we were coming up, like the Jayhawks and like Wilco was like a new band, and um, Soul Asylum was still kicking around, and the Replacements were broken up, but it was all about the Replacements and all
Oh, they're
about
my
that.
all-time favorite band. Replacements are the
Oh, well, of
greatest.
course. So I mean, that's where we're coming from. We're coming from the van. We weren't really a punk band. I think we went more along the lines of those Midwest rock bands and indie rock bands, and I think we have more to do with them than any of the like West Coast kind of punk informed bands. We're informed by punk, but we're informed by a more heartland kind of punk and maybe even a Americana thing. We're friends with a lot of those people from that time, and and also we have a relationship with the Southeast that goes back to like the REM kind of thing and Athens, and we worked for years with Russell Carter, who was our manager, and so he worked with Sean Mullins and the Indigo Girls and Matthew Sweet. That's how we got all that sort of hookup with Matthew, and um, you know, so I mean we're sort of an American band, and we don't really fit in to the West Coast thing of the punk bands, Offspring and Everclear and bands like that are sort of they're going off that a little bit, I think.
Oh, sure.
Arts, I think he just really he holds on to that punk thing, and that's totally cool. That's fine, but I mean, for us, we don't really identify as much, even though I have more in common with him than the rest of my band, because I did see a lot of that stuff growing up in Southern California. I mean, a lot of my upbringing was, seeing bands like TSOL and Adolescents, and
Nice.
and then there's the sort of underground scene in Southern California. You had everything from early Americana with the Blasters and X and Los Lobos
Oh, so good.
to a psychedelic thing. There was a sort of a neo Paisley thing, with like bands like the 3 O'clock, and I was into the Minutemen too,
So
and
good.
Saccharine Trust and Descendants, and there was
Nice.
just a million things, and even a little bit to some degree the metal thing, because couldn't ignore it for a while, and then the punks were getting into bands like Slayer, and you could see Slayer in a room full of like 300 people,
That is
and yeah,
wild.
yeah, insane. insane stuff. You know, right around 84, 85, you know, it started really rolling and the labels started really paying attention to shit. So that's why the Red Hot Chili Peppers got big around 88 with Mother's Milk. Jane's Addiction was big, and you know, it just became this thing. And by 93, 94, let's face it, 94, March of 94, Kurt Cobain dead. Boom, there's Green Day coming right around the
Punk,
corner.
yeah,
So,
that punk broke out right away.
yeah.
It really
And
was
then,
on to the next thing.
so Nirvana goes away, Green Day. I mean, and this is all post Guns N' Roses too, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
Cult and all that. So I mean, you know, we sort of have watched. My band has watched and been a part of that fabric and watched it go by. And now looking back, and I realize I'm talking to a 29-year-old, but it's like, you know, I really still strive to like remember things accurately and try to paint a picture of what it was really like, because, you know, I'm just saying it was a really big thing. There was a lot of different things, and you know, everybody like washes the 90s up, you know, over with this big sort of broad sponge, and the 80s too. I think there were so many great things going on underground in those times.
Oh, all the
that,
best stuff was, yeah, definitely underground. It's not, and I feel like that
Yeah.
stuff aged the best. The Replacements aged so much better than most of what Top 40 was in the 80s.
Definitely. And they knew it too, and it was just a joke to them.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
Paul
that's why.
Westerberg didn't give a shit about Top 40 or like what, you know
Let's
what I
face
mean?
it, you have to, if you want to even survive, you have to have a sense of humor, and you have to have the ability to make fun of the industry and of yourself playing a role in that industry. You know, you just have to know. And you're not, you know, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they're responsible for what they've done. And of course, to a great degree, mostly it's you, but it's a team, and there's a team all around you. And sometimes that team is, you're just not going to jive with them. It's not going to work out. And I don't think someone like Paul Westerberg could ever, you know, do work like that with people in the industry.
Oh my
And
God,
he
no.
knows it. You know, he knows it. And you know, a person like Dave Grohl is very happy to. And you know, he'll put on a smile and he'll walk out of the meeting and go, motherfuckers or whatever. But he put that smile on, and Paul Westerberg could never do
No,
that.
oh my God, no. Are you kidding me? I mean,
I tell you, you know what I saw? I saw the Freak Scene, the Dinosaur Jr. story yesterday. I watched this sort of documentary about Dinosaur Jr., and it was incredible. It was incredible the way they just didn't care about whether they were going to ever be famous. And then they got famous, and then they broke up because they were famous, and then and then it took them about 5 or 6 years, and they decided to get together again, and then they were able to play, and they've been playing, you know, pretty good tours ever since.
oh yeah,
With the original lineup. I thought that was really great. Like, success blew the band apart, and Warner Brothers and all that stuff. And then they had a hit on MTV, and they went to Europe, and they did all that stuff. But then, you know, by the time they were on, you know, their fourth album or whatever, their career was dying, and they couldn't like fill a club. So they broke up and then got back together 5 years later, and they played festivals and stuff. So they're doing great still.
there seems to be that band like of every, I don't know if it's every generation, maybe there's even more, but like where during I mean we were just talking about like the big stars and all those, where it's like in your day, like nothing, like you end up breaking up because no one's buying the records, financial stress, like no one's out, and then all of a sudden like 5-10 years later, maybe longer, it's like you're headlining a festival of like 30,000 people, or all of a sudden just like whatever, you're kind of getting this like on the back end.
Nobody thinks of the Rolling Stones that way, but you know, by the time that they were putting out their best records, it was like they were still coming to America and playing like you know, a small little sports arena in like Wichita Falls or whatever. You know, they were playing small venues still, and Madison Square Garden probably the biggest thing they would do. But it took all the way for another, like, you know, 5 or 6 years for them to be doing those big stadiums. They had to work and generate this energy, and it took them a long time to be that big band that you see by 1976. You know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work even for the big, you know, the big time rock bands of those times.
No, you're right about that. And I think we look at like a lot of like big acts like that, including ones who are like at legendary status now. And you forget that people have lulls in their careers, that some albums didn't sell as well as others.
Yeah,
sometimes you
that's
went
right.
from an arena to a theater for a while. Like shit like that happens even with the biggest ones. Like now you look back and go, yeah, like with the Stones, like, you know, they're towards the end of their career now. And it's like, God damn, they're legendary. I mean, they're absolute legends. But you forget that, like, they didn't wake up one day, start the Rolling Stones, and, like, 5 days in, they were the biggest thing around. Like, it doesn't.
They had to work. Oh, my God, especially. And they had the forethought to hit America, even though they didn't have number one songs. They would go to America and play in parking lots or supermarkets and, you know, dog tracks, whatever.
To work your ass off just to get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're not guaranteed that that pans out either. Like, they put in that effort and that, you know, just taking a chance on yourself, basically.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We're going to pretend like we're a new band, and we're going to pretend like we're young, and it's I think it's a good business model for a rock band.
I like it, and I want to ask, it sounds like, I mean, you're very, like, invigorated, kind of, I don't know if reinvention of the band is the right word, but I mean, just, it seems like you guys care about what you're doing.
I wouldn't say it's a reinvention. It's just an evolution, because it's been a slow process, and we're actually getting better and better by really slow increments, really little by little, each song, each new thing. Our Patreon thing is something I need to mention before we go.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
It's you know, if people don't know, a lot of podcasters use Patreon to get the funds together to do research so they can dedicate most of their time to the podcast. So what they do is they get people to subscribe to their Patreon for a certain amount per month, guaranteeing them first chance exclusive material or whatever. That's how they support that. There are a few musical artists there that are doing very well with it, and they have, you know, upwards of like 60,000, you know, subscribers, and you can only think about $5 or $1 even a month per subscriber.
Yeah.
It's gonna take care of your thing pretty well. Well, we don't have anywhere near that. We have coming on 100. We're hoping to break that goal by the time we go out on tour, and we're gonna be able to sign up a bunch of more people. But you can do a yearly subscription for a smaller rate, or you could do a monthly subscription, and we offer new songs every month that we've recorded, just as if we were making an album. Just the same quality, production, everything, and we give those to the Patreon patrons every month, because they subscribe and nobody else gets them until everybody from the Patreon has heard those songs. And that was the result, that the 4-song EP was the result of the first 4 months of our Patreon. So those 150 some odd people were able to hear those songs before we put out the EP. Now, we thought we were going to do 4 more and make a second EP, but instead of that, our time got crunched and we realized we're ahead of the game. So what we've decided to do is include those 4 songs that we put on the EP and put them on our new album, which is coming out June 14th. And that will be called The Deep End, and it has those songs and I think 7 more or 8 more originals. And they were recorded in May and June of last year. And the reason we're going in the studio now is because we have to get ready for the next batch that's going to come out. So what we're doing now more than ever, instead of the old model of like, let's get some money together and get a producer and go in the studio and then get ready for an album, and we'll put out an album, and then you put out the album and you get it manufactured and you get a distribution deal, and they put it out, and then nothing happens, and then it's over. Rather than do that, we stockpile the songs, release them little by little to people who really want them. They give us money for it. We put that into a recording fund for the next batch, and it's just, it's a machine that feeds itself, fuels itself. So
I like that. That's an
yeah.
interesting way to go.
And then so we're not abandoning the idea or the concept of putting out albums, which I think is a great thing, and I couldn't live without it, frankly. And I couldn't live without recording in expensive studios with producers. I love it. I love to pretend we're the Beatles. I love that. It's my favorite thing about the job we do. I love to compare us to the great bands that have been, legendary all our lives in our minds. That's all I want. I mean, even if it is a fantasy, I project it out to the people who like us, and they think of us as rock stars. So, I love it. I just love it.
Take it. No, take it. Kind of with that too. And I wanted to ask you, like, as far as the studio experience goes, and it kind of sounds like you are you someone who likes going in there, spending a lot of time tweaking with shit, like writing in studio, doing all that? Or are you someone who likes going in, like, well rehearsed, get it done, and then get out?
Okay. So there's only one thing I think that really determines which one of those two, and it's a little thing called money.
Oh my God.
It's the only thing.
Oh, I love that.
Now listen, would I love to get up every morning and stumble into the studio and like light up a doobie, get a pot of coffee going and just start and then go all day, take a break? I would love it. Let's see what we can come up with. But you already seen what happens in the Let It Be thing with Peter Jackson. Did you see that?
I've not watched it yet.
Well, it takes a long time and it's hard, and people get bored, and people get pissed, and people get impatient, and you have to keep at it. And the songs sometimes don't come easy, and sometimes they do. And so you're risking wasting a lot of precious time by doing it the Beatle way. You need to sort of have unlimited funds and a studio and an engineer that's you're paying, he's going to be there the whole time. Okay. So as much as I would love to do that, we only have enough funds to do it for a certain time. So historically, my band has always worked out what we call pre-production. We do rehearsals. We map out the arrangements. We try to get it so we could go in and lay down the basic tracks, and then you can fuck around and see what can go on top of that. Let's call in some strings, let's do this or that, let's get this girl to sing this part or whatever. All that stuff, you can do that after, but you really have to have those basics already like fleshed out. Once you have the arrangements, then you can mess around. But we are literally going to try this time to go in with not much prepared. We are going to go in and see what we can do with David and me and Miles and Joey and the engineer that David works with. And we're isolated out there. There's nothing else to do but work on music. There are literally ladies who cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for us.
Nice.
And then set. We just work. We're there to work, and we're going in for about 8 days, and hopefully, this is the thing, as much as I love that, idea, that concept of seeing what you can come up with in writing in the studio, we've never really been able to do it. Even when we were at the top of the heap, as far as like, budget goes, back in like 99, 2000, we were able to do just about whatever we wanted. And we did, but it cost a fortune. And, prices haven't gone down over the years. But we're going to give it a try. And, I'll report back to you and let you know
Yeah.
how it went. I'm a
The-
little nervous about it, but at the same time, I'm excited, and I trust Miles and Joey, and I trust David, and I trust myself. And I think it's going to be real worthwhile. I really do.
I'm stoked for it because, I mean, as a fan, like, just hearing how, like, I mean, it sounds like you guys still give a shit about the band. And, like, I mean, we've kind of talked about it already in this interview, but there are bands who you've been around for so long, you start getting on autopilot mode. Maybe you just get in that cycle of...
Yeah. Well, it's the only thing we have. And, it's the only thing we have. I could run off and start another band, but I'm never going to have the juice behind what Fastball has, we got hits under our belt. We're the original members. We've been playing the whole time. So, you can't substitute that. Anything else would be, either a huge slog, or it just wouldn't meet up to the vibe that Fastball also has. The chemistry of, the people who have been in it and who work together and communicate through music together. So there's just no alternative. That's the way I see it. So that's why we're excited about it too.
Keeping a lineup too for as long as you have, I mean, staying original like that is, I mean, honestly a feat. I mean, I'm sure you've seen most of the people you came up with, if they're still around, have probably went through a few lineup changes. I mean, I don't know if it's something that you even actively think of, but is there anything you can credit to keeping a lineup together?
Yeah, I accept it. I think that we deserve a pat on the back for staying together.
Yes, you do.
None of the bands, I mean, really, none of them. You can go back too. You can go back to Wilco, Soul Asylum, Jayhawks. Some of those guys are original members, but Soul Asylum's just Dave Perner now. Everclear is just Art. Sugar Ray is just Mark and Rodney, and Goo Goo Dolls are just Johnny and
Robbie. I think Robbie.
Yeah, Robbie Takeout.
That's right.
I mean, by the way, I watched a little video of them playing live, Goo Goo Dolls, from the other day, and they sounded really good. I was like, wow, damn. And I kind of didn't expect it because we're seeing a lot of like I was saying, videos.
That's what we were talking about, the YouTube videos.
Yeah, you're like, yeesh. Yeah.
It does happen. Let's wrap it up. Tell people where they can get the soundtrack EP. Where can they find you online? All that good stuff. Plug away, and we will and we'll play some music after this.
Our soundtrack EP, our 4-song EP, is only available on streaming. So Spotify, Apple Music, that kind of stuff. YouTube. Also, our new album coming out in June will be available at some mom and pop stores throughout the country.
Nice.
It will also be available through our website, through fastballtheband.com. It will also be available on all the streaming services that you can pretty much put stuff up on. So they'll be able to get all that there. And if you want to hear anything that nobody's heard yet and you want a chance to support the band, you can go to patreon.com/fastball and you can sign up and check it out and see if you want to be a subscriber to our Patreon for just a few dollars each month or a year. You you're eligible to get stuff. Sometimes we write things, sometimes we put up videos of like practices or recording. We put up news, but we mainly give exclusive, advanced listening to people who want to hear stuff before we put it out there to the rest of the world. So if you really want to support the band and you want to keep in touch with what we're doing currently, that's the place to go. And also look out for us on the road. All our dates are up on our website, fastballtheband.com. And, you know, we'll be out all the way through the end of 2022. First with this Everclear thing, and I think we'll be going out in the fall and in close to Thanksgiving and before Christmas too. So
nice. New music from Fastball, touring. I mean, there's
exactly.
not a shortage of Fastball things. So lots of things to go check out from you guys. It sounds like.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, this has been great. We're gonna play right now a couple songs off the Soundtrack EP. So right now on the Power Chord Hour, here's the title track. This is Soundtrack. Right here on the Power Chord Hour podcast, you just heard all of Fastball's brand new EP, Soundtrack. Definitely go grab that. It is digital right now, no like physical CD or vinyl, but a very good EP. You should definitely go grab that. Go support the band. I want to thank Tony for calling in. That was such a fun interview. I loved talking to him, and including as someone who's like been a fan like the last like 5 years, and like I was telling him, I've always been a fan of the hits. I mean, you know, The Way, Out of My Head, like all those songs are great, you know, like including if you're listening to like the radio, you know, you hear a lot of songs that get played a ton, but there's a few that like I don't mind, and Fastball are one of them. You know, they're including like with the 90s, like Fastball, Third Eye Blind, Everclear, like you know, some of those bands who you hear to this day you still hear nonstop, but I don't mind hearing. You know, there are a lot of other songs like, oh my God, please never let me hear that again. I think like The Way and Out of My Head are just well-written songs, you know, like just really, and kind of like just like pop songs, but not pop songs, if that makes sense. Like not like just in the most traditional sense of a pop song. Like it's hooky, it has a nice melody, it's memorable, you know, like the mainstream, the masses can all enjoy it. I mean, I think in that way, those songs are very much that. And, you know, it was great talking to him. But, like, also, yeah, just becoming a fan and getting past those hits and just really, you know, finding out what a great band they are. And definitely hearing, like, that Big Star and Replacements and stuff in there. And not super surprised with the British bands, you know, that I never even thought of so much that influenced Fastball. But just hearing all those things and finally getting to, like, ask a member of the band, hey, like, I hear a lot of Big Star in your music. Are you a Big Star fan, or am I like, you know, am I making this up kind of stuff? So really cool to talk to Tony. He was so much fun. Really enjoyed that. Hope you did too. And again, go grab Fastball's new EP, Soundtrack. You just heard all 4 songs. You know it's good stuff, so go support them. Go see them on tour. They're probably playing around you. I mean, I named off those 4 dates at the beginning of the episode, and those are all, they're like Fastball, I think those are all like within 2 hours of here, of Jamestown, where I'm at right now. Like, all within 2 hours. So I'll be seeing Fastball a couple times this summer for sure. But they'll be on tour with Everclear and The Nixons later on in the year. It sounded like it may be a headlining tour. Sounds like they might. Either way, they'll be doing more touring. But they are staying busy, I think, the rest of the year and really promoting this EP and getting that new album out. Yeah, because he said June that's coming out. So they'll have a new record out. They're touring. They got this new EP out. They got the Patreon. So many ways to go, go digest what Fastball's doing. Lots of new music, and they're great live. If you've never seen them, again, like that's what made me a fan, was seeing them live and going like, oh my God, like I got to listen to them a whole lot more. I've been sleeping on this band outside of the hits. But yeah, and it's funny too. When I used to work at Kiss FM, I would do the All Request Retro Lunch, which was a live show where I'd just take people's requests from the 80s and the 90s. and was always stoked when anyone wanted a Fastball song, because there's a lot of awful songs that were in the top 40 in the 80s and 90s that people would request all the time. I'm not a fan of. Which, look, I'm happy to play what the listener wants to hear, so I had no problem with it. But still, when someone asked for something really good, I'd be stoked. So I was always happy to play a Fastball song for somebody. But yeah, that's going to be this episode of the Power Chord Hour podcast. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this one. Really enjoyed doing it. And tune back in for another one. And as always, go give us a follow at Power Chord Hour on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We really appreciate it. Rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to this. That is a huge help to the show. Email me, powerchordhour@gmail.com. I have free Power Chord Hour stickers I would love to send out. And what else? I think that's about it. Radio show. You want to listen to the radio show? New one every Friday night, 8 to midnight Eastern on 107.9 WRFA in Jamestown, New York. You can stream the show and the radio station anywhere at WRFALP.com. You'll see the big listen button there. So tune into the radio show. That is always a good time. And I think that is going to be everything for this week. So for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.